Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor whose dog is snoring in the background. So I got two dogs right there, one of them snoring. That'll add a little flavor to this video. I think it's appropriate. I think it's the kind of far out there sound you don't expect in a review of an album that is filled with far out sounds you don't expect. I'm going to be reviewing the album Scaring the Hose by JPEGMAFIA and Danny Brown, and it's interesting because there's a lot of interesting new albums came out this week, and so I did a poll. And I expected Black Country New Road to win because that's, my most viewed videos on aggregate are about them. But this album won with 60% of the votes. So that's exciting to me that you're so passionate about hearing what I have to say about this underground rap album. And you're going to be able to tell from the thumbnail and from the title of the video what my angle is. Okay? 404s and Headache. Now that's obviously a reference. That's obviously a reference to 808s and Heartbreak by Kanye West, and I'm going to explain this whole idea. You see, part of what makes 808s and Heartbreak such a great album is its title, because in its title it announces the form and the content of the album. So the form is going to be 808 drum machines, and the content is going to be Heartbreak. So this album is very consciously, very intentionally, an album of 404s and Headache. Let's start with the 404s. Now, if you go to Bandcamp, where there's the superior album cover for this and some notes from JPEGMAFIA about this album, actually, that's not even true. There's just one note, and this is what he says. For about a year, I practiced with an SP404. That's a Roland sampler. I'm proud that I got to make some fire shit from the time I spent with this machine and my favorite rapper. You can call this a practice session. This is what we would sound like in the 90s with no Pro Tools. I'm done using the 404 now. So this is important. He's making this album, and the only thing he really wants to say about it is that it is an exercise. It is a stylistic exercise with a certain kind of sampler, the SP404. So I just taught my hip-hop class about trap music, and when I did that, I had to explain to my students what is an 808, what are the sounds that it makes, why is it so important, because they don't know. That's the sound that they hear all the time. So what is it that makes a 404 so interesting? Well, it's not as easy as an 808, the booming bass and the kind of ricky-ticky hi-hats. It's a sampler. It's a sampler that was discontinued and then restarted because it was so popular. And I had to look around to find people talking about it. I mean, a lot of people use samplers, and the Roland series of samplers are just used by most, hip-hop producers. Hip-hop producers who are trying to do sample-based hip-hop. But I found this very good video. It's by someone named Direct Productions. I'll include a link in the description. And this is the way he describes the 404 sampler and how it's different. He says that it's two-handed. When people are using it, it's like they're doing surgery, okay? And that's the feeling that we get here. It's not just that he's doing samples. There's an active feel to this. This doesn't feel like someone has a computer and makes a loop and puts it together. There's an energy, there's a liveliness to this. And again, he says very directly he's not using Pro Tools. This is not an album which is mediated or chopped up on a computer, which gives it forcibly not an analog sound because it's still all digital, the sampler, but a more tactile feel. Two-handed doing surgery. That's how I imagine JPEGMAFIA making this album. Two hands doing surgery. And importantly, you can take a sound source from anywhere and use it because you can use a microphone on this sampler. So immediately it's clear the value of the 404. And when you listen to the album, Scaring the Hose, that kind of directness, that kind of physicality comes through in the samples and in the production. 404 is also very important in the production of lo-fi music. That's how it's most popular. And this album is certainly quite lo-fi. So there's the form. And I'll talk more about these samples as we go along because, good lord, this album has some samples on it. Let's talk about the content. Not the heartbreak, but the headache. I say headache because it seems to me that most of this album, Danny Brown's style is very attacking. JPEGMAFIA's style on this album is very attacking. I'm going to be honest with you. Every time I've listened to this album carefully, it has given me a headache. I'm not being some kind of jerk. I'm not saying that's bad. Lots of good stuff gives you headaches. Okay? Ice cream. There's an example. But really, it's just a very aggressive, clangy sound that is very intentional. And it's funny because I listened to this album in two separate ways. The first way I listened to it, I was driving my son to visit a college campus, Go Great Danes, and we were driving, and you have to listen to it in the car going 75 miles per hour, super loud. So that might have been why I got the headache, and I wasn't able to take notes. I was just absorbing the album, and every time we listened to it probably like 5 times in a row. Every single time my son would be like, "Damn, this is good. Damn, this is so good." Like every time we're like, "This is so good," But it was giving me a headache. It's all worth it for my art here. And the second time I listened to it was this morning with my wife and my new baby. And that's really funny because, my wife really doesn't like aggravating music. She has great taste in music, but music that's aggravating she doesn't like. So I know she wouldn't like this. I knew it would give her a headache, and I don't want to give someone else a headache. So I'm listening to it, super quietly, and I'm, reading the notes off of Genius, and then go whosample.com and doing kind of... So I had these kind of, 2 separate ways of listening to it. But the thing that unifies it really is this theme of kind of headache-inducing aggression. Thematically, though, there's not much, this isn't a particularly political album. I mean, it is to a certain extent. There's a lot of anger, understandable anger towards white folks, like myself. Some general commentary on society, but for the most part, the theme of this album is the most important theme in rap history. It is the follows. I am the best rapper. You are not. You are, I would go as far as to say, a sucker MC. And, if I may, if you will give me a second to finish my point, also a sucker DJ. You've been biting all your life. Okay? That's the theme. I'm better than you. Or, we're better than you. Which is always worth it. Is always important. Now, part of what's interesting is the way that they say they're better than you is just how weird they are, how different they are, how they don't sound like the normal. Now, sometimes I get a little bit annoyed with that. I get a little bit annoyed with rappers when they talk about how bland everyone else is, but they just do it in such a funny, charming, unexpected way. The best example is there's a track called Jack Harlow Combo Meal in reference to the Kentucky Fried Chicken Jack Harlow meal. Just having a title with that song says everything. JPEGMAFIA, if you watch interviews with him, he's very influenced by punk. This reminds me a lot of the great Newton, Massachusetts-based band Anal Cunt. They would just have album titles, and the songs didn't matter. They were just the album titles, like You Own a Boat, or Eazy-E Got AIDS from Freddie Mercury. Just ridiculously provocative, funny one-line quotes. And that's what they're able to do with some of these titles. Just bam, right there. There's another theme in this album, which okay. So I love movies. I love movies of the 70s, like everyone else does. And I remember how sort of disappointed I was when I heard Martin Scorsese describe the making of Taxi Driver. And the way he describes Taxi Driver is just describing it as just a totally coked out movie. That cocaine was the fuel that made that movie go. I felt a similar, although greater, disappointment at the movie Popeye by Robert Altman, because that was one of my favorite movies as a kid. That same kind of feeling. Or if you watch the movie Magnolia, if you watch the director's commentary on the movie Magnolia by Paul Thomas Anderson, he is the most coked up person you have ever heard. And the thing is that cocaine is a big theme in this album. The final track is called Where You Coke At. They talk a lot about coke. Cocaine music, cocaine movies have a certain aggression, have a certain attack, have a certain energy, that's for sure. But the problem with all of it is that there can be sort of a hollowness underneath. Maybe that's attached to the high and the quick steep down low. I don't know what. But this album feels very cokey. And according to the National Institute of Health, which I'm going to quote here, headache is one of the most common symptoms that appear after cocaine use. It may occur due to dopaminergic and serotonergic system impairment. Cocaine causes vasoconstriction by stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system and decreases reuptake of epinephrine, norepinephrine, serotonin, and dopamine. 404s and many different kinds of headaches. Now I talked about the cover. The actual cover they used is nice. It's a little bit of like a blaxploitation 70s art thing. It's very nice. But if you go on Bandcamp, it's this. And this I really think is is the funniest cover I have ever seen. It is the funniest idea. I cannot tell you how much I like this album cover. The idea of presenting themselves as Kim Jong-il and as Donald Trump as being this just it's a real shame that they didn't go with that actual title. And you see, there's two people on there, but I would argue this album is really much more of a three-person album. That there's like JPEGMAFIA the producer, JPEGMAFIA the rapper, and Danny Brown the rapper. So I'm going to separate those kind of separately. People often call JPEGMAFIA Peggy because his real name is Jamargaret. So I'll just call him Peggy here because that's what everyone calls him. And as a producer, that's what this album is. This album is so you see behind me J Dilla Donuts, and you're gonna get mad. You're gonna downvote me. You're gonna kick me off of whatever pedestal you had me on, if you had me on any pedestal at all. Because my experience with J Dilla Donuts started, this is not an exaggeration, Friday. It's Sunday now, it started Friday. I somehow had never heard J Dilla Donuts. I'll tell you how. I'm 45 years old. I wasn't paying attention to new music. That came out, I didn't know. So I'm excited. Like, I'm super excited. I'm going to do a video about my reaction to J Dilla Donuts. I'm excited to discover this thing. It's so important. I understand how important it is. I've read articles. I've watched videos about the influence and the import and how J Dilla made donuts. But I've still never listened to it up until now. And I bought it on Friday because I knew somehow in the back of my mind that these projects had to be connected. When I heard this album for the first time, when I heard Skye and the Hose, I understood. And it really is this question of how to use samples. JPEGMAFIA may not be the greatest sampler of all time. I personally believe that Prince Paul will basically never be dethroned. I don't think. Maybe he will. Maybe he will. You thought I was going to say Kanye? No. I don't think Prince Paul will ever be dethroned. But JPEGMAFIA, Peggy, Jamargaret, has one thing way above even Prince Paul. That is id gaff. I don't give a fuck sampler. This guy does not care if it's far out there, and more importantly, he doesn't care if it's mainstream. That's what's amazing. That he's able to use on this album, Milkshake, and the previous album, Britney Spears. like he has songs where you go, you're making a sample out of that? And then he has a next song where you're like, you made a sample out of that? Like, he's able to do that because his creativity is so high. It's funny because, his real last name is Hendrix. And I'm sure people have done this before, but there aren't a lot of rap artists who actually remind me of Jimi Hendrix. There just aren't. People don't understand Jimi Hendrix. They just go, okay, he was black and a genius, so every black genius is like Jimi Hendrix. That's just not accurate at all. Jimi Hendrix is that's selling short every side of that comparison. But somebody who comes from a geographically unexpected place, JPEGMAFIA, Jimi Hendrix, somebody who spent meaningful time in the military, Jimi Hendrix, JPEGMAFIA, and then somebody who is able to play their instrument in a way where you go, how the hell did they not only think to do that, but how do they seem to do it so seamlessly, so effortlessly? So I get it, the names are the same, and it's a stupid comparison. I'm being bad music cricket. I'm being a bad music cricket right here. I'm just doing the simple thing. But I think you can actually make that comparison and have it stick more than any other rapper or rap producer. At times, when I was listening to this album, I had the feeling that I feel when I'm driving, because, I drove 6 hours yesterday, back and forth, long time. Whenever you drive through like a long distance, I often listen to the radio just to have fun. And I kind of go through, I'll hit the pop stations. And if I'm lucky, there'll be like a college station or a rap station. There's so much Christian stuff, so much gospel stuff, no matter where you drive. And it kind of fuzzes in and fuzzes out. That at times I had feeling, and this is how I felt listening to J Dilla Donuts the first time. I had the feeling of just saying, hey bro, your radio's busted. Like, hey bro, your radio's busted. Hey bro, your radio's busted. That's sort of the aesthetic of this album. So I've said all that, and I haven't even gotten to the thing that makes this album so amazing sonically. Every single one of these left field beats, every single one of these Jim Rice beats gets paired up with a drum beat that makes it work, that just fits perfectly, that pockets it, that just goes with it, that makes this album so head naughty. How do you get so experimental and so head naughty at the same time? I don't know, but he did it. Jamargaret did it. Now then we get to Peggy the rapper. And what's funny here is that he's definitely playing second fiddle to Danny Brown. And he said in that quote that Danny Brown's his favorite rapper. What's funny is they're sort of like the reverse of Chuck D and Flavor Flav. right? So Flavor Flav was the comedic, sort of idiosyncratic voice, and Chuck D was the sort of strong voice and sort of the leader. Here, the sidekick as a rapper is JPEGMAFIA, and then the leader is Danny Brown. It's kind of a funny inversion there. As a rapper, I think JPEGMAFIA is probably underrated. I don't know. I don't pay that much attention to like the discourse on, but I imagine he's such a good producer, like Kanye. It's hard to act, or Timbaland. Gee, hey, was Timbaland a good rapper? I own that album, Timbaland and Magoo, and Timbaland's first album. No, he's not a good rapper. But when someone's such a good producer, it's hard to really appreciate if they're a good rapper. But what I love about JPEGMAFIA's rapping, and maybe this will be an insight to you, is he really plays with rhythm. He plays with the rhythm of words, which means he plays with flow, which means he has a great flow, but a great variety of flow. He raps like a producer, not like in the way that he can't rap, but that he's thinking rhythmically about how words go together, which is great because that goes really well with Danny Brown, who also has an amazing rhythmic game, an ability to slow down and speed up flows, find different pockets of rhythm within words and sets of words. Listen, it is inarguable that Danny Brown is a top 5 living MC, okay? In terms of his skill, his flow, his inventiveness, I think it is actually inarguable, okay? A year ago, some neighbors came over and we made food for them, and they had these 2 little girls, maybe, 10 and 8 years old. Very polite, very nice. And they trained them that whenever they ate something, not to say I don't want to eat this, or not I don't like this, they trained these little girls to say, thank you, this is not to my taste. So these little girls were just sitting there, and like basically I think all they want, was chicken fingers, Jack Harlow chicken meal. They just whatever. They're just kids, right? Kids have bad taste in food quite often. But they just kept saying, this is not to my taste. This is not to my taste. The content of Danny Brown's raps is not to my taste. He invests so much of his creativity, first of all, into talking about how much he does too many drugs, which is not that interesting to me. But the bulk of it is like a bunch of high school boys, or me and my friends in high school, trying to one-up each other with the grossest sex joke you can possibly make. He spends so much time with these sort of sexual jokes and creativity and fun, but it's not to my taste. Okay? So I do not dislike Danny Brown. I like him. And the thing that I like about this album is that I was listening to it, and especially when you listen to it loud, if you listen to it loud, you hear his lyrics less for most of it. For most of it, his lyrics, and I'm not going to, I don't do the thing, I'm like, it wasn't mastered properly. The mixing was, I don't care. I don't care about how it's mixed, how it's mastered. I think it's on purpose. I think it's raw. And in its rawness, often his voices are kind of lost. So the image that I had was Be Real in a pillowcase. Okay, Be Real, the rapper from Cypress Hill, who sounds a lot like Danny Brown. It's funny, there's a whole story about how Be Real got his voice. Like, he was rapping in his normal voice, and the other guys at Cypress Hill were like, do something else. He's like, ain't going up like that, ain't going up like that, ain't going up, ain't going up like that, ain't going up like that. Like, he just developed that. So it's like that, but with a pillowcase over his head. It's a little bit muffled. Which is cool because then the rhythmic skill of Danny Brown comes into place. You don't have to pay attention. This is one song I wasn't paying attention. I just loved it. And then I read the lyrics and I was like, why would you describe the sex act like that? But just listening to it, it's this hard beat, this crazy sample with a hard beat, awesome rhythmic rapping. So, let's get to the album. Let me give you a stamp. It's hard to pick a favorite song on this album. Like, almost every song is completely different from the last song except for their general structure. But I'm going to go with Garbage Pail Kids. Spelled P-A-L-E. Very funny. I used to collect Garbage Pail Kids as a kid. But it's sort of part of the... There's a very comforting anti-white streak in JPEGMAFIA's music. I saw an interview he did recently. I think it's with No Jumper, where he talked about not hating white people, And he described how, white people are the reason that he's able to afford the life that he has. Sorry, the wind just blew and my dog Toby went crazy. And that, just statistically, with the amount of white people in America, most of your audience is going to be white if you are a successful musician. Which I think is nice. I think it's an interesting idea. But still, obviously, we live in a very racist society, and that is the political bent to this. So this is this sample. Wait. Here we go. And now, Professor Skye recreates the sample to Garbage Pail Kids by JPEGMAFIA. Hi, nine, nine. Hi, nine, nine. Hi, nine, nine. Hi. It's okay, Bo. I woke up with the dog. Hey, nine, hey, probably waking up my kids for that matter. Okay, it's this crazy sample, which, according to Tomohiro Worlds on Reddit, who was quoted on Genius, found it. It's a commercial for Nichiro Meatpacking. The most Mr. Spokora sample you've ever heard. There's also even a little bit of a Nintendo tennis commercial on there, which you can just tell from the sounds. Unbelievable. This sample is totally weird because he found this Japanese commercial, but what makes it interesting is that those beeps aren't really that simply. They're not simple rhythmically. They're not like, they're these little triplets, but they're stuttered triplets, which try to make a beat off of someone going, ha na na. Like, I can't even do it. I can't even make the proper thing here with my glasses and my cup. Hit me in the cup. So, a really weird sample, and somehow he makes the drums to go so hard with this Mr. Sparkle sample. And the drums are just so hard. And then starts right off with Danny Brown in the pillowcase style. They don't do rap no more. They just sell clothes. I should probably quit and sell a line of bathrobes. And then like wait. Yes. But then, like, what's great is he sometimes takes off the pillowcase and just gets super clear. And he makes this line, "Eat your ass like I'm cannabis," which is really funny because I'm a big fan of Cannabis, or at least his first album. I bought his first album when it came out. I remember, like, one of the first times I ever really used the internet was trying to find the back and forth between LL Cool J and Cannabis. And Cannabis totally ate LL Cool J's ass, which is what I understood at the time. Because at the time, you understand, the vocabulary of analingus was not that popular. Tossing salads, eating ass, all that, it was not really talked about that much. It really wasn't, okay? I mean, this is like, it was, so it's funny in hindsight. I mean, even then, I'm sure people are clowning on him. But as time goes on, Cannabis says that you can't eat N-words ass like I do. That's the line from one of the best beef tracks of all time. Cannabis throws out there. Just amazing. But it's just this great like rap reference and funny and dirty, which Danny Brown is great at being dirty. Jesus. Am I going to make some kind of Frank Zappa allusion to Danny Brown where like I sort of don't really like Frank Zappa's content either because it's like too dirty, but then musically he's just so interesting? Am I going to do that? Am I going to compare one of them to Frank Zappa and the other to Jimi Hendrix in the same video? I could have structured the whole video about that. Damn it. Would that have been better? Tell me in the comments. Have you smashed the like bucket yet? Smash the like bucket, subscribe, leave comments. Tell me, what would be a better hook, a better framing device? Zappa meets Hendrix or 404s and Headache? Might show up on your screen like a tele-evangelist. Just that's an example of how he's able to use words, like just not televangelist, tele-evangelist. You understand? Like he and Peggy understand words and how to use them rhythmically. He references the song Milkshake, which is going to come back to the next song, helps this whole album have this thing. And then JPEGMAFIA, we already have the and all of a sudden there's just like just like super strong guitar, just like out of nowhere, just being played, just light levels of distortion, and it's just amazing. And then Peggy comes on, he's rapping. Again, the syllables with his voice, the theme of rap superiority. Thought we chased your punk ass off the scene. Caught that right, Raekwon. You should have stuck to the cream. Serving these like I'm Paula Deen. He has so many references. But I think the reason why JPEGMAFIA is so popular with my viewers and with nerdy white people in general is that his references are often very shared. The nerdy white references and JPEGMAFIA references, the Venn diagram is almost a circle. It's very much there. But this is a sort of outside of that, talking about the Paula Deen, who is the TV chef who used the N-word. Later, he's going to make reference to Papa John, who is a different white celebrity who used the N-word. It's like, I'm just thinking about it now, understanding the way that he's bringing up these characters and reminding you of these characters, where very often, I don't know what it must be like being black, how many times there's these mask-off moments where it's like, son of a, I knew that's what they were saying behind closed doors. I can't prove it, but I know it. I saw Paula Deen, I'm like, that's a woman who uses the N-word. Oh, I knew it, okay? I don't know. And then there's just this part where he says, S by D, you B-A N-words? I'm not going to say the whole thing. And my son just laughed and just said, I just love the way he said that. And again, like such a banal line said so well. Did I say banal? I did. There's even in the back, there's like this crazy voice and you can't quite tell. And that guitar is used again. So it's used to sort of like chunk up the song into little moments. You can't be broken over 30, getting your ass beat. Where do you sleep at? Whole song, totally memorable, totally fascinating, totally well made, improbable, great. So I'm going to go through the rest of the album a little bit quicker. Starts off with the track Lean Beef Patty, which has a pitched up Genuine sample. Speaking of people who worked with Timbaland. Again, supplemented by drums, super head nod, this great bass drum sounds, then even some echoing keyboards. I would love to watch him play this. I would love, hey, is he going to tour? Are they going to tour? Are they going to tour? Are we going to get to watch him actually using the 404 and making these beats? It pisses me off because artists, like lame-ass artists who just like sing over, who sing over a CD can charge $200 for a show. But I bet JPEGMAFIA can't. But I will pay $200 for a ticket, JPEGMAFIA. You come anywhere within 5 hours of me. If you're doing that, if you're playing the 404 live, I don't care. Tickets cost $10. I'll pay $200. The title is apparently, according to Genius, after a TikTok fitness YouTuber. So there's so much like Twitch and TikTok, and that's the other thing I'm talking about, like the nerdy white guy and the JPEGMAFIA references. It's that, it's that. I mean, that little 10% there, though, is the most interesting stuff, usually. JPEG starts off, fuck Elon Musk. Sounds good. If I tweet and delete it, then I mean it. I like that. Just all these crazy references. This is where he talks about Papa John. Papa John, who is most famous for eating 40 pizzas in 30 days. If you've never followed the Papa John thing, he got fired from his own company for saying the N-word. These be texting with kids, don't get no stranger than this, that's ho shit. Probably a reference to Drake here. Don't forget, you can go from Elon to Ye in a week, buddy. Like how social media can bring you down. It's also kind of like a weird paternalistic, like, you could do that to that, buddy. Like, he's giving you this advice. But then buddy goes hard. And this is the production details. This is why I could have spent another 3 weeks preparing this video. And I still wouldn't have got to the bottom of the crazy bag of just Peggy madness as a producer. Like, the word buddy becomes like a rhythmic thing. And there's like scratching in the back. And then basically, I think it's the Amen break by the Winstons. It's used for Straight Outta Compton and all of Jungle Music. And then we just get this crazy rapping with Danny, and everything just sounds... This is the Be Real on the pillowcase, the first time I came up with that image, and it's just a beautiful song. Next song is called Step Up Pig, almost the funniest title of the album. This really stilted drum beat, but the voice comes right in, and there's a little interruption by this little dreamlike harp sound, and the sample, like the soul sample that comes in. Opening verse... The opening verse by Danny Brown touches on the topics of being a cocaine addict and having a penis. The ways that he's able to describe both things are vivid and gross. Don't do drugs. That's what he says. That's what I take from this. Don't do drugs. What I love here is that Peggy brings in a different beat for himself, some scratching, a pitched soul sample, and a little bit higher. Then there's like this synth, like a washy synth pad arpeggio over it, like a blown out sound halfway through. this was the time my son swears too much. I can't help it. He's a senior in high school. What are you going to do? I'm happy he swears in front of me. You know, you don't have to have different registers with your parents. This was that point when he heard that, when that blown out sound happens, he just goes, this album's fucking awesome. Yeah, I totally agree. Go Great Danes. And then there's like just some like drums for a bit. And like he talks about a different Twitch streamer. Another slight switch, drum beat change, where the harp is a little bit different. And then like this third verse, he just calls out black people and white people, using both the N word and the C word. The C word is cracker. We can all say that. It's not unjust. It's because of the power imbalance that has been set by crackers for centuries, which means that using pejorative terms for crackers is totally acceptable because there is no implied abuse of the unjust power imbalance. In case anyone ever says, how come you can say cracker? Because shut up, cracker. That's what I say. That's what I say. When people say that to me, that's my answer. How come you can't say the N-word, but you can't say cracker? Oh, because shut up, cracker. All right. White people love making excuses and bitching. I guess that's what culture is for them. Hey. We also steal from other cultures. Come on. I don't believe in any culture superiority. I don't think any culture is inherently superior. That's why I love America. That's why the only culture I think is superior is American culture, because American culture is a reflection of African, Asian, European, all that stuff. Like the only reason that we're the best is because we're the mix of everything and we're able to do all of it. You know what I mean? It's because we're so damn heterogeneous that our culture is so good. Scaring the Hose is the next song, and this is the evolution of the misogyny. So my main issue, I reviewed Know What I'm Saying a long time ago, and I just wanted to like it so much more than I did because Danny Brown's content matter is not to my taste. But this is interesting because this idea of scaring the hose is basically implying that women don't like listening to very aggravating music. And I know I started off this whole video saying how my baby daughter and my wife don't like this. My teenage daughter does like this album. So your little hypothesis about women being scared and calling all women hoes is not accurate. But I don't think it's actually about women. I think it means hoes just as a general pejorative term. Because let's face it, when you listen to this album, you are a hoe. Because you're just like, I'm scared. What's going on here? What is this upbeat clapping, this weird saxophone, this like warbling out of tune, actually squeaking? Turns out it's just a straight sample, almost a boring sample, almost a P. Diddy level lifted sample from someone named Dirty Beaches. Even the word working it, look it up, whosampled.com. It's crazy. This is a completely boring sample of a completely fascinating song, which shows his absolute true knowledge of music of all different kinds. But I'm playing because the sample is super simple, but then what does JaMargaret do? JaMargaret brings in a drum beat that is unbelievable, and he's able to match up with this idiosyncratic sample. He's able to find rhythm in a sample that sounds like it shouldn't have rhythm. Stop scaring the hose. Play that ish that'll have them touch their toes. We don't want to hear that weird shit no more. What the F is that? Give me back my aux cord. This is funny because we're sort of going back to this, you know. Like very clearly, JPEGMAFIA has a complicated relationship with music nerds because, you know, like the sort of pride that edgy teenagers feel like, they always make me give back my aux cord because I play stuff that's too freaky for the man. I made them listen to Death Grips. I'm not worthless. You know, that's a typical thing. And hey, first of all, I am no different. I'm still a little bit like that, but I definitely was like that when I was younger, okay? So when I was younger, I definitely had that sort of edgelord. There was no aux cord, it was a CD, or like, where do they hear this mix I play them? They're never going to be able to handle the stuff I put on there. I put on like 5 songs by Anal Cunt. You know? But it's okay. You know, it's okay because it is true. The mainstream hip-hop doesn't have a lot of space for this kind of exploration. Actually, no, it's not true. Well, until Kanye comes back, it's true. Kanye proved that hip hop is capable of having a lot of experimentation, and for that matter, I'm just gonna go out there, okay? Whole Lotta Red by Playboi Carti is as experimental and interesting as anything by JPEG Mafia. I pissed off some music nerds, and I'm sorry, it's okay. I happen to keep this album behind my notes when I video. Okay, this is what it looks like. This is what I look at, by the way, when I do my videos. Okay. You know, there is a lot of experimentation. Whole Lotta Red scares the hose, okay? But their larger point is true that mainstream music in general is not experimental enough, need more auto-tune and trap and all that stuff. And just this great clapping. Then we get to the Stamp Garbage Pail Kids, and then the next song, Fentanyl Taster, which is almost my favorite song on the album. I can tell it's my favorite song. Weird, twisted sample from Kellis. Okay. This is what I think he's mixing together. A sample from Kellis, chopped up and weird. The Amen Break by the Winstons. Especially with that Kellis thing, the word want used at the beginning of each measure. And then, just for fun, I think he's sampling the menu sound for the Nintendo Wii. Okay? Do, 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 do. It's at least the same thing. And this guy loves video games, okay? I've never liked video games as much as this rap artist loves video games. Okay? First of all, that's how good of an artist I am. Those are supposed to be two circles. And it's just great because, like, when Danny Brown comes in, it just gets a little bit harder. And this is great opening line from Peggy, which is like, is it the car, the hose, the money, the jewelry, the cribs, the drugs, the hose? Is it the cat, the meth, the weed, the lee, and the molly, the boy, the blow? Just like that great rhythm. He even throws in a reference to the song It Takes Two by DJ Easy Rock and Rob Bass. I want to rock right now. I'm Rob Bass and I came to get down. I'm not internationally known, but I'm known to rock the microphone. I get stupid. I mean outrageous. Stay away from me if you're contagious. Yeah. That's off the dome. If you're of a certain generation, I want to rock right now. You can just do the whole thing. Did I get that right? Tell me in the comments. But I think that's on purpose because he's sort of drawing a line between DJ Easy Rock and Rob Bass and Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia. I think the difference between JPEG Mafia and Jimi Hendrix is that JPEG Mafia is ridiculously smart. You know, Hendrix wasn't like super smart. He was a genius, but you know, he wasn't. I don't know if it's educated. I don't know what it is. I don't know if like JPEG Mafia has like a doctorate. It wouldn't surprise me. I know he was in the army. I don't know if he used the GI Bill or whatever. But like, just there's like the cleverness is pretty insane. Crazy clapping behind Danny's verse as well. And what I love about this is the way it plays with that kind of pillowcase, like stuffed, muted sound into something more. Until Danny Brown says, let me tell you what I'm going to do. Tell no lies, just tell you the truth. I'm a big dog like Marmaduke. Park itself when I come through. Pull up on me, we outside. I'm about to take you for a ride. And then the crazy thing is there's two outros. And one outro leading to the outro is the Amen Break by the Winstons, but it's not a sample. It is a replay. It is a drum machine playing the beat. It's not a sample. So did he find a sample of someone playing the beat? Or is he sitting there on his 404 how does he do it, man? Seriously, JPEG Mafia is a really impressive artist. That's why you come here, for that level of And then he just has fun with it. Then he does this mix-up of Milkshake. Let's see if I knew this song. My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard. They're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours. I could teach you, but you have to charge. I want to rock right now. But there's this weird chopped up mix of it. He changes the sample. He creates new rhythms out of it. He turns it into like a house jam, into a slow down funk jam. It's like a guitar solo. This is like, you know, my favorite Jimi Hendrix solo is the backward solo off of the song Are You Experienced? It has that kind of just like, what, how, you know? And then I love is that the want, that's been the rhythmic basis of the entire song, Kellis saying want, at the end it's just want, 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 want. Like he reminds you that that's the rhythmic bass. The next song is called Perfect. This is two things. It's a reference to Street Fighter, when you beat somebody and don't get a hit, the guy goes perfect. And so I believe it's a reference to that. And it's also a reference to the player on the Browns, the Bengals, some Ohio football team named Vontaze Burfict. I don't know if he played in the East-West Bowl. I imagine he did. You cannot get a better name than Burfict. Burfict. Just Vontaze Burfict. God damn, that's a good name. That's such a good name. Anyways, and this is a really odd sample. It sounds almost like a medieval times, but it's not. It's from a gospel producer. Remember how I said it's like your radio's busted? It's like you're stuck driving through the South and all you have is like random gospel stuff. This is by someone named Richard Smallwood, Procession of the Levites. And so it's actually cool because it's like medieval times in a sort of gospel way. I love Danny on this. This is my favorite version of Danny. The way he just says, hey, 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 reminds me strongly of Andre 3000 in a good way. And I'm going to really praise his rhymes when he does this whole run on ooh sounds. I'm going to make a you when I do. She do what I say. You think I knew voodoo. A. It's hard like Sudoku. So I put it in. I didn't realize what this was saying. Oh, it's so gross. Okay. It's hard like Sudoku, so I put it in her Duke shoot. Ugh. Dude. Netflix and chill on a jailbroken Roku. Get new troops. Fucking with a loose screw. I'm just a shoot and then yell out Toodaloo. He was talking crypto, so I sent his ass to the moon. Just Toodaloo, shoot, Duke, voodoo, ooh, you. It's very creative, even if it's gross. Duke, shoot. I just realized what that means. Super hard style from JPEG. Just these drums and the sample go so hard together. He sort of continues on. Give me that Nancy, give me that Ruth, give me that Barbara, take out that tooth. I feel like Trump when I step in the booth, which establishes who is the Trump in this relationship. We always knew it was JPEG. Danny Jong-un. And he makes direct reference to Makami, which is great. You know, one of my favorite active artists right now. Next song is called Shut Yo Bitch Ass Up / Muddy Waters. It starts off with this aggravating sample of a woman saying, shut the fuck up, cut with the same voice that comes throughout the song. It's got this kind of like, oh, sound in the background, like a trap beat and like beeps of a phone. Halfway through the first verse, that voice comes back. And then Danny Brown just comes out and he's just great. I don't rap circles round mms. I do figure eights. Rent free at n's head. Should do real estate. The idea of not doing circles but doing figure eights, that's just that level of creativity. That's why Danny Brown is one of the best. Even if when he talks about going up into people's Duke shoots, it is not to my taste. Duke shoots, not to my taste. I should make merch. Duke shoots, ? Not to my taste. Who would buy that? Would you buy that? Because like you'd wear it, people go, what does that mean? There's a YouTuber who's talking about not liking a rapper talking about anal sex. So I bought a shirt. It's bad. The Muddy Waters part continues, is a totally different beat, but continues with the ooh sound. These drug addicts attached to me like I'm Tom Holland, swing on these actors, these rappers faker than Andy Kaufman, Truman Show with the truth, get shoveled in a coffin, I shit you not, I feel like Shia LaBeouf in all these problems. You smack your bitch up like Prodigy, when you do it darling, I smack my bitch ass to Prodigy when we do it doggy. Just awesome, all those references, Andy Kaufman, huge influence on me, and I think maybe the greatest comedian of all time, I don't know. He's up there. The Andy Kaufman announced internet humor. Like he created all internet humor, I would say. But then also like he's referencing Andy Kaufman. And Andy Kaufman was played by Jim Carrey. And then Jim Carrey's next role, previous role, right around there was in The Truman Show. So he's creating these little connections in your head when you are able, because that's the thing. That's what it is about JPEG Mafia. He's able to make these lightning fast connections. And I don't follow all of them, but when I do follow them, I feel this special sense. Like, oh my God, I followed that. He said Andy Kaufman, and then he said Truman Show, and there is a connection. It's through Jim Carrey. It's like the Kevin Bacon game. You're just trying to like, get all these connections all together. And then I smack your bitch up like Prodigy when you do it, darling. I smack my bitch ass to Prodigy when we do it, doggy. This is his music knowledge. So Prodigy off their Amazing album, Fatherland. If you like just hard techno music, you gotta listen to that album. Opens up with a track I always skip called Smack My Bitch Up because I don't like thinking about hitting women. So he's criticizing you for doing that, like Prodigy the group, and then he says that he listens to Prodigy when he does it doggy. Here he's talking about Prodigy from Mobb Deep. Prodigy's solo album, HNIC, is extremely underrated. I love Mobb Deep, but I think HNIC is maybe better than the back half of Prodigy's discography. Maybe. I'm just riffing here. You can be mad at me. I could be wrong about that. Ends with a super sped up sound. Then we get to a song, Orange Juice Jones. And then this, just how? How is he doing this? It's a 2-minute song. It has a Michael Jackson sample. Like an odd Michael Jackson song. It's so sweet, but then it gets kind of aggravating too, paired with these drums. And Orange Juice Jones is a different singer. I saw you and him walking in the rain. I don't know why he's talking about Orange Juice Jones. I looked up Orange Juice Jones' biography. He was also a veteran. Maybe that's why. And then the interlude in between the raps is the you got a message alert sound from Apple. And like when I listen to the album, every single time I'm sitting there driving, Go Great Danes, I'm sitting there driving, I'm like, oh, I gotta check my phone. Oh, yeah, I got peggied. The cokiness of the album, Danny Brown, I can't feel my face off these narcotics. Took her to space on autopilot. I've been rolling all night, staying up. I'm geeked up. Peggy is maybe the most charismatic on his verse, though. It's just really nice, just so rhythmic and nice. He talks about the camel clutch. He makes so many references to wrestling. I'm not into wrestling, but rap music forces me to care about wrestling. Okay, like when I was a kid, I had the LJN figures. Rowdy Roddy Piper was my favorite. I also liked Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Andre the Giant. I guess I liked Hulk Hogan, but just you sort of had to like Hulk Hogan. He was like Superman. You have to sort of like deal with him, I watched it all the time and I loved it, but then I kind of grew out of it. A lot of rappers, I guess, never grew out of that phase, which is cool, man. It's as good as any other form of entertainment. I'm not looking down on it. But between like Griselda and JPEGMAFIA, it's like there's so much wrestling. But I remember the camel clutch because I remember the Iron Sheik. I'm the black Marjorie Taylor Greene, he tells us. It was funnier when he said, I'm the black Ben Carson. Just ridiculously good ending here with Peggy rapping. Next song is called Kingdom Hearts Key. I don't like this one. I don't like this song. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, you got pissed off at me. I don't blame you. Tell me in the comments how wrong I am. Bruh. You don't like Kingdom Hearts Key? I'm going to tell you why I don't like it. 1, I never played the video game Kingdom Hearts. 2, the game pisses me off. Because 3, I watched like an hour-long video once about the timeline of Kingdom Hearts, about how it works and what the lore is. I don't know why I watched the video, okay? This is my fault. But watching it made me want to play the game less and less and less and less and less. It just looked like garbage. I'm a Nintendo guy anyways. I'd never buy a PlayStation. Except to play maybe Tony Hawk 2. But like, I don't know. So that's like strike 1. And then like strike 2, I love that he's this idgaff producer. He just does anything. It's this crazy anime sample. But the whole thing just feels so hard on that Japanese culture tip. And I know he spent time in Japan and whatever. He invented vaporwave while living in Japan. Jesus Christ, this guy's amazing. But like I personally am not super into anime or manga or even that into sort of like video games in that same way. So I don't know. It's fine. It's not a bad song. It does provide an interesting break from the rest of it. It's the least aggravating of the song. It's the song which I would say would scare the hose the least. Great kind of strummed guitar. I do like that he raps about his hairline. I love his honesty there. This has The Only Future from Red Devil, who's fine. But then we get to the song God Loves You. Once again, we're reminded we just have to thank Kanye for existing and for bringing gospel. What I like about this album is I feel it's inspired by Donda, not Jesus is King. The way that Donda integrated gospel samples, perfectly mixing with the drums, just this ridiculously sexual stuff. Go ahead, girl, just bless me. If you're on your period, call me Moses, because I'm about to split the Red Sea. Dude, are you 15? Samples Ski Mask, the Slump God. Slump God, the Ski Mask? Ski Mask, the Slump God, yes. Which actually has a sexual religious reference as well. Next song is called Run the Jewels. Very cool, like a trumpet, the mute. The way it just leads right in, this sample leads into Danny is just amazing. The drums come in, full pillowcase style. Awesome. Great, great song. Next song is Jack Harlow Combo Meal. Cool kind of piano sample, more jungle, amen drums, kind of in and out. I love the idea. I'm about to run up on you, take your spot, and take your bitches. Man, I can't F with y'all, and y'all let Jack Harlow sell you chicken. Just hilarious. Peggy does two things in this verse. He has like a little tiny verse, and then he does a satire of R&B. And this is great because he's saying so much by saying so little. Just with the title and this little bit. Girl, it's been minutes, it's been days. I pray for you always. It's so tragic, babe. He's doing a satire of rap that has too much singing in it, that has too much pop in it, that is too Jack Harlow, you know? Like, rap, mainstream rap has a Drake problem. It has a Drake solution too. I mean, like I don't dislike Drake, but his ubiquity and his style, which is really based on not scaring hoes, is a bit much. We do need to scare hoes. And I don't mean women. I mean people who do not accept non-mainstream music. I'd like to remind you though that the first rappers who figured out that the most important thing is not scaring hoes are Notorious B.I.G. and Tupac. Okay, they're the ones. Okay. LL Cool J. Yeah, I know. LL Cool J too. Fine. But really, I think Tupac and Notorious B.I.G. took it to another level of really making music that made hard dudes happy while also making music that didn't scare the hoes. So as much as we want to like look down on this kind of pandering to a softer kind of more melodic hip hop, it goes back to Biggie and Tupac. And listen, it's awesome if you want to take shots at them. Oh my God, I swear to God, I didn't mean that. I don't edit my videos, and I really regret that I said take shots at them. That is not a joke. Damn. Okay, I'm actually close to editing this video, but I'm not going to. So I apologize for that. If you would like to denigrate the works of Tupac and Biggie, go for it. I personally think they're great, and part of why they're so great is because they knew how to thread that line, which Drake and LL Cool J also do. Next song is called Ho, Heaven on Earth, kind of playing around with the concept of the word ho in this album. More church stuff, like a cut-up organ sample. I don't know. Is this the best song on the album after all? Like, this is maybe the least flashy, but just like the way the drums and this organ go together, just listen to it. Just listen to it. All the things he's doing. JPEGMAFIA is doing so many interesting things. The sample reminds me in a very positive way of the song Heaven and Hell off of Donda. This great descending choir just lets it play out sometimes. Peggy as a rapper is super great here. Bitch, where the cash at? I'm a computer. I feel like AB gave Giselle the whole ruler. Keep one eye open like Slick Rick the ruler. Yeah, he's rhyming ruler with ruler, but it's different meaning. He's talking about Giselle Bundchen and Antonio Brown and Slick Rick with the eye patch. And then I think Danny might be at his best here. I think he really might be at his best here, probably because he's not talking about Duke shoots. Last time I said he was at his best, I walked right into a Duke shoot reference, okay? And I don't like walking into Duke shoots. Tell me who there for me, think I need therapy, sent God a text, but his message turned green. Again, the whole technology theme on this album's all the way there. But here he is showing some vulnerability, which I like. Show me a sign, what do it mean? Walking in circles, these these urkels. I'm on my Stefan, what is you on? Pop up my collar just like the Fawns. I love this because he's sort of doing what Peggy does too, where he's sort of taking references deeper and he allows you to make connections in your head. So, I mean, obviously, God not responding to your answer, that's interesting. Everyone Urkel, like the show Family Matters, played by Jaleel White. And then Stefan is the alter ego that he had that was super cool. But what's cool is it's pop up my collar like the Fonz. And like the Fonz was from the TV show Happy Days, and he was like the coolest guy in the world. Hey, sit on it, right? Right? That was his whole thing. He was like the James Dean surrogate. But he's played by actor Henry Winkler, who's like just kind of a nerd, Like Fonz is very much an alter ego for Henry Winkler. In the same way that Stefan is an alter ego for Urkel. And I think you're supposed to make those connections in your head. And it's just the end again here, almost like the end with the milkshake here, just this full chopped up, messed up beat before it just gets to be this full church bit here. Then we end with a song Where You Get Your Coke From. Starts off with a click of 4 drumsticks together. The A part has this just crazy rolling drums, this orchestral sample. And then there's a total shift to just like a woodblock semi-bossa. It's like there's a setting that says Bossa Nova woodblock, and you hit that button and sort of mess around with that. And then it goes back to this first part. It sort of reminds me of like Blueprint era Jay-Z. You know how like Jay-Z sometimes have kind of orchestral beginnings? Or it's like, I'm here, The Rock. You know, like that kind of like big feeling. That's kind of how it feels here. 45 is sick. I take my shots, tongue out like Kiss. And the Choppa Young is Matt Gates. Bleh. You think you're crazy? Well, buddy, go enlist. You know, oh my God. Look at how crazy these are. Look at them. Look at how flopped out he is. He's not even on the dog bed. He's like half off the dog bed. Look at these things. Toby, you're nuts. It's just this really, reference to Matt Gaetz, the politician who allegedly is having affairs with underage people. So saying his gun is younger than young, like the lovers of this politician. Interesting, very topical. That's the thing. His political references are very topical, very pointed. He's talking about Matt Gaetz. He calls himself the Black AOC at some point, the Black Marjorie Taylor Greene. He's reading the news. Okay, he's the most he lives in LA. So when you live in LA, you drive around a lot. I'm going to guess that yes, he is a musicologist of the highest level who studies and listens and digs in the deepest crates in the world. I'm going to guess when he's driving, when he's on the PCH, when he's on the 405, when he's on the 5, he's listening to NPR. Okay, he's listening to National Public Radio. He's drinking in the news of the day and figuring out what it is and what's happening in Congress and are they going to pass the budget bill, I think so. And I think that's to his credit. I really like Danny at the end here, where he's like rapping over that A part. Toby just fell off the bed. By the way, Bo and Toby are like Danny and Peggy. I should be putting a psych ward for what I do with vocal cords. And it's true, because he does all this weird thing. He talks like that. And then total madness at the end is these samples changing and shifting. And it's a perfect ending. It has that cokey feel. Plus it has these great rhymes and bars and amazing sample. And then mixed in with all of that is this great drum beat. And the whole thing is just ridiculously satisfying. So, my experience with JPEGMAFIA is limited to his last couple projects, but I get it. I get why y'all love him so much, why you want me to talk about him, why you're still here after 57 minutes and 17 seconds. These are my Patreons that allow me to buy music. I think I might buy that LP album that came out. I just saw in his store that it's there. I think I might buy it, and if I do, I'm going to take their money. I want to give a special shout out to 3 Patreons who wanted a special shout out because they like this album so much. Talking Logan Henry, At Large O'Toole, and Alejandro. So thank you to those 3 too. There you go. Until next time, there's the Duke shoot.